Hello and welcome back. Today I'm talking about pace, fluency, and protecting early progress. As schools settle back into routine, the pressure to accelerate learning can feel relentless. Targets, timetables, and accountability measures all push for faster progress. Beneath the surface, fragile early gains in reading fluency are emerging. And I think it's time to ask whether we should push hard or protect those small steps forward, which are more likely to be the real key to long-term success for our pupils. I'm reminded of my visits to inner city primary schools that took place almost 20 years ago. Victorian school buildings with roomy classrooms and huge windows that floodlit the high ceilings gave me the feeling that I'd travelled to another era, especially when I saw all the children lining up after their morning break, looking straight ahead, standing absolutely still and in silence as the class teacher inspected their shoes and clothing. This seemed to take a disproportionate amount of time, and every child complied without a single smirk of resistance. Intrigued, I watched the children file into the classroom, stand behind their desks, and then, at a signal, sit quietly. They listened with very close attention and settled to the task. Only then did the teacher speak to me. "One moment, please," and moved like water between a handful of them, inaudibly instructing each of them on how to get started. He then sat in a child's chair, as if anchoring the whole class with him, and gestured for me to join him there, sitting low down in the very centre of the room. He worked through a pile of marking with large, weighty gestures, dragging a glue stick over the page, adding colourful, personalised comments and corrections into each child's A4 workbook. There were no shortcuts. This was dedicated work. It was then that I understood how safe these children felt in his presence, and that the line outside the classroom had been more of a welfare check than a slow transition from the noisy playground to the calm of the lesson. This experience has stayed with me. I saw the power of presence and also the importance of bringing our presence into everything that we do as teachers. With presence, it becomes easier to notice small early gains in reading fluency. For example, when a child asks a question about a picture or a word or misunderstands the gist of a story, we might be under pressure to hear 10 more children read. This question will take us over the time allocation for this child. The way that we respond might encourage engagement or snuff out that tiny flame of curiosity for good. When a child feels that their question was inconvenient, they do become more compliant. Reading becomes another way to maintain a mask, so they look good on the outside but feel fragile on the inside. The early gains of these children can become quite deceptive. Reading for speed alone may sound good, but when engagement is superficial, the children know that they dare not reveal how they really feel about reading for learning. And here is a more recent story. At the end of the school day, I moved down the main stairway with a sea of Key Stage 2 children and out into the spring sunshine. This was just a few weeks ago. Ahead of me, a boy turned and stared hard, and then his face broke into a broad smile. And I smiled in return. I knew how much the change in his reading had meant to him. In baseline assessment, his voice had not faltered once, but he pushed the book across the table at the end of reading the second passage. The gesture was heavy and showed me his disdain for reading. There was rebellion in the air in the early rhythm for reading sessions from this child and his friend, and after a couple of weeks, they were reading music fluently in the sessions along with the others, and they began to smile. In the follow-up assessment, he said that he was amazed by his own experience of reading. "It's like a movie playing in my mind." And he went on to describe how he was urging everyone he knew about how important it was to read with more expression. He now loved reading and was hooked on books. And this is why timing, anticipation, and continuity matter. Without stability, anticipation cannot consolidate. Stability in reading is multi-layered. Engagement and fluency require this stability, and it cannot be secured through speed or accuracy, but it actually relies on a deeper level of engagement from the child, just as it would in a conversation. This is why we can think of the process of learning to read as social at its core. The marks on the page were made by someone, and reading their words aloud or silently is a genuine social encounter with them. This is why reading is not a word search, a puzzle, or a guessing game. Accuracy and speed of decoding might sound good on the surface, but the social encounter at the heart of engaged reading is what matters far more. The example I gave earlier of the highly structured approach taken by one teacher shows how strong framing can provide a calm and child-centered learning environment in which all the pupils can flourish. This is very different to the kind of strong framing that escalates anxiety and tension in classrooms. So, by building a culture around the social dimension of learning, in which every child knows that they are seen, heard, understood, and appreciated, strong framing can protect the sequence of change that I offered in the second example. And this change in the social dimension of learning can be supported by protecting these three things. Number one, continuity, making sure that the rhythm of learning is sustained, the same room, the same day, the same time, the same people, and so on. Number two, minimizing noisy transitions. When children need to recover following excessive noise, crowded, disorganized conditions, time and access to calm, focused attention may be lost. And number three, avoid having the children feel overextended by having to perform, by rushing them past the opportunities for discussion and engagement. If children need a little more time to ask a question, can we not honour that moment? Before we chase speed, we might ask ourselves what we are disrupting and what needs protecting. The early signs of stability are often the real foundations of fluency. And if you want a practical way to notice early stability before it becomes measurable, I invite you to download my Fluency Tracker. Thank you so much for joining me again today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.